Hey everybody, Gromos here with another Steel Armor video, and as I've mentioned last time, I thought I'd start a new campaign in the game to show off the campaign from the beginning. And in this video we will have the first mission of that. Now I have to mention that since I have not played that many campaigns yet, I don't know how that will go and how far we will get in the campaign, but we will see. Now, since we had the D62 in the last video, this campaign is with the M60A1 in the Iran-Iraq campaign. And this time we will be a bit more on the offensive. Since this is the first mission though, it won't be too difficult, but I think the mission still had a few nice elements to it that show off some of the elements of the gameplay I did not show too much previously. Well then, let's take a look. So here I have just started the campaign, and there are different phases to the missions in a campaign. First you get a briefing of what the overall situation and objective is about, and then you enter the operational phase, which is turn-based, and here you move the units you control around on a strategic map, as does the enemy as well as allied units. And if friendly and enemy units meet and the fight develops, it is fought in the tactical mode, if it includes player-controlled vehicles at least. Now, the vehicle briefing told us that we, the 3rd Armored Brigade, as well as 2 infantry divisions, are to start an assault on the left flank of the enemy defenses, that's on the north side of the map, and break through and eventually encircle the enemy. Now, on the operational map you can move your units around, the green ones being the ones you control, orange and red friendly units, and blue are enemy. Now on this map you can also look up your unit status, morale, ammo, fuel and so on, as well as statistics about casualties. But since this is the first mission there is no need for this and I won't be here very long. Since the briefing calls for an attack on the left flank, I move my units forward, planning to, in the long term, break through in the north and then swing down to encircle enemy units. That would be the plan. If that works out in the long term remains to be seen. I try to keep my units close enough together that they can support each other, as all the units that are within the area a battle takes place you can use. And as I move one of my platoons into enemy territory, it runs into enemy forces defending, and we got the battle here indicated by the flame, which we will, when the turn ends, play. Now, having moved all my units as far as I can, I end my turn, and it's the turn of the enemy, which starts a small counterattack north of my own attack. But since the small attack that the enemy starts is so close together to my own attack, those 2 battles will take place in the same area and take place at the same time. Now, the battlefield is going to be about this area, and I have most of my units close enough that I can bring a large number of my tanks into the battle. At the same time, I don't expect too much enemy forces yet. However, it is night, so that provides a few challenges on its own. Now, after the operational phase we enter the deployment phase, where we deploy our units on the battlefield. We can deploy them everywhere in friendly controlled territory, which is red, and the enemy can deploy in his territory marked in blue. I have 5 tank platoons with M60 tanks, Alpha 1 to 3, as well as Bravo 2 and 3, and 2 mechanized infantry units, Golf 1 and 2, and this is how I eventually end up deploying them. Now, since we are attacking and I don't expect much resistance in this first mission, most of my tanks, Alpha 1, 2 and 3, are deployed in a wedge formation and will attack west towards the first objective. Bravo 1, which has 4 tanks, is to the south in a defensive position in somewhat concealed positions, to block a possible advance from the enemy forces down there. And the same goes for Bravo 2 on the northern flank. The 2 mechanized infantry units are M113 carrying infantry. They can't take much damage of course and only have RPG-7s as anti-tank weapons for the infantry. Now, that is enough to knock out the tanks we have in this game, but the range is very short. So Golf 2 is in concealment behind the attacking Alpha tanks, ready to move up if needed, and Golf 1 is in concealment in a defensive position in a forest all the way north, to ambush anything that might break through there. The infantry can knock out tanks if they are close enough, but at longer range they can't do much versus tanks with just RPG-7s, and I don't have ATGMs on those units. Well, that's the deployment phase. Let's start the mission. I initially will be moving up with Alpha, while Bravo is staying in concealment for now in a defensive position. My attack would be stronger with all tanks of course, but since I don't know what the enemy has and what he will do, I want some flank protection so they don't bypass me. Now, usually the first thing I do when I enter the battle and take control of a tank is get the commander's hatch open and have a look around with the binoculars, getting my bearings and looking for threats. You just have much better overview of what is going on that way, but as mentioned earlier, this attack starts at night, so I can't do that because I can't see anything. I have to use the commander's active infrared scope to look around, which greatly decreases my field of view and how far I can see, which is of course a big disadvantage. However, thankfully the enemy units have a similar problem. Now, not long after moving out, I can see some bright spot in the scope, and at first I am worried that I see enemy infantry to my front, which is possible since we deployed right in front of the enemy line, so in theory enemy units could be deployed right in front of us as well. And if they are close enough, they can easily destroy a tank with an RPG. So I switch to the gunner and swing the turret around to have a closer look with the better magnification on the gunner side. It turns out though that it is just a bush that was illuminated by the infrared searchlight of the tank to my left. And the thing with those old active infrared sights is that unlike the new passive infrared sights you have on more modern main battle tanks, they don't see the heat radiated from objects, so an infanterist or tank won't be glowing in the sight like you may be familiar with from more modern equipment. Instead you have an infrared searchlight coaxial to the barrel, and the sight has an IR filter, so you can see the terrain and objects in front of you which are illuminated by this searchlight. Just not very well, and the range is limited. Anyway, I eventually keep moving up, and other than that shrubbery I can't see anything threatening for a while as I advance. I spread the 3 alpha platoons out a bit and eventually reach the first objective without meeting any resistance, so I decide to move Bravo up as well and advance on multiple objectives. Now Bravo 2, the 3 M60s to the north, I order down to join the main attack force, because as I advance my line is spreading out as I cover a larger area, and I want Bravo 2 to come down and fill the gap that is building. The 5 tanks of Bravo 1 I order to advance on the 2 southern objectives, though since that looks like a hilly area I order them to just move close to it and not right on it, as this would be a good spot for enemy infantry and I want to have a look at it before I move up further. Now my units keep advancing and I'm still with Alpha moving towards the objectives at the canal, and I still don't have any enemy contact, and I'm starting to wonder if I will run into anything at all before the mission is over. But then eventually Bravo 1 to the south reports enemy contact. So I switch to a Bravo 1 tank to have a look at what is going on. It seems the small hills where the 2 southern objectives are located are indeed occupied by enemy units, but only infantry units so far. I'm still pretty far away too. Still, I don't know if I am in range of RPGs, and there is of course no guarantee that they don't have any ATGMs, which can destroy a tank at long range as well. So I want to take them out quickly. I start to open fire with the commander's 50 caliber machine gun, which is fitted in the commander's cupola so I can fire it from inside the tank, and with the night vision scope. I also ordered Golf 2, one of my mechanized infantry units, to mount up in their APCs earlier and start heading this way, since I figured I might need them in that hilly area, because I did not want my tanks to roll up there without infantry support, as there are many depressions and holes for infantry to hide in and be invisible till you roll up to them and it is too late. But the mechanized infantry is still a bit away. But I don't need them yet anyway, as this contact is on the slope of the hill and I can see and attack them from long range here and take the threat out quickly from longer range, especially after firing a few high explosive rounds from the main gun as well. Now one of my tanks took a hit at the start of the engagement by something though, a RPG grenade launcher, I'm not sure, and the damage is not bad, but it shows that they can hit me out here with something. The tank lost the track and the crew has to get out and start repairs. And that takes a while, so the tank will be out of action for most, if not all, of the mission, but luckily he will be able to repair behind our lines as we advance. The tank is of course extremely vulnerable with the crew outside and repairing the track, so in a different situation I might have to leave a second tank behind to protect it while it repairs the track. But here they would have to get past us first to get to the damaged tank. Now, after a short while, one of the southernmost Alpha tanks also reports enemies sighted, so with the things here not needing much attention yet, I quickly take a look at what is going on there. But I can't see anything, so after a while I go back to the beta tanks. Being back in the commander's cupola of one of the tanks from Beta 1, I am at first a little confused that I see light from outside through one of the vision blocks, and it's quite bright outside, and I am at first a little bit worried that maybe someone of my tanks got the bright idea to turn its normal lights on, though I really don't know why he would do that. However, as I open the cupola and take a look outside, the mystery is solved. It's an illumination round fired most likely from an enemy mortar, illuminating the battlefield. Makes sense, since the enemy infantry doesn't have night vision, or at least I don't expect them to. Well, by now my own infantry units have arrived as well, and I order them to advance to my left. What I want to be careful about is that they don't get in front of me or my tanks, because it is night and I can only see in green, and I have not seen friendly infantry in a night mission close up yet, so I don't know if I can keep them apart from any infantry very well, so I want the friendly units to advance to my side, but not get in front of me. One of the Alpha platoons that was up north is also coming down to support us here in the south, as I did not run into any resistance up north. They are, when they arrive, supposed to move up to the right of Bravo 1 to their west and get around the hill to attack it from the side if possible, but again they will need some time to get here. But with my infantry already in position to my left now, I start to advance with the 4 tanks of Bravo 1 that can still move on the right side of the hill, with the infantry moving up to my left. I try to stay a little bit in front of them to again make sure they don't get in front of me, and I slowly advance along the hill, scanning around with the night vision scope. Here the limited field of view is really a problem, since enemy units could show up at very short range, as I crest a ridgeline for example. So I have to scan left to right all the time, but can't be helped. Now I'm the tank the furthest to the left in the formation, while the others to my right are driving more around the hill, I drive over it. So when my other tanks spot an enemy APC behind the hill and start attacking it, I can't see the enemy armored personnel carrier still being on the other side of the hill. So I order my tank forward to crest the ridge in front of me so I can engage whatever enemy might be there too. That gets me a bit in front of the other tanks though. Now I also ordered the platoon that was arriving from the north to move around us to the west and attack the enemy from that side. As I advance and the terrain behind the hill is coming inside, I can eventually see another APC, a PTR, behind the one that the other tanks have just taken out, and I start to attack this one and take it out as well. And then scan for other targets. The PTR is of course generally part of a mechanized infantry unit, being the transport, so where are the infantrymen? It is of course possible that the units we took out on the other side of the hill earlier was that unit that was part of that PTR, but I'm not so sure about that, and I keep looking for more targets. Turns out though that they found me first, and moving forward this aggressively and cresting the hill while the other tanks are still a bit behind me was a mistake. And my lead tank takes a hit from an RPG most likely, which takes my lead tank out. Which is of course worrisome, losing a tank to an RPG most likely coming from infantry that is close by and I can't see them. Now, last time I looked at the map I saw that our own mechanized infantry was still a bit behind us. And I think they aren't close enough to help us yet. Now I take command of the next tank in Bravo 1 and scan the area for whatever took out my lead tank. But I can't spot anything at first. I have however seen both the crew from my lead tank as well as my M113 APCs that were carrying the infantry open fire on targets a bit further back, so I think I have a bit of an idea where they are. And I start advancing in that direction with a high explosive round loaded and ready to fire, scanning left and right. And I also order my infantry units forward to attack. Now, with the symbols of my mechanized infantry on the map still being a bit behind me, I think at this point that directly to my left there are no friendly units yet, as they are further behind. So I don't expect any infantry close by, and when the commander reports enemy infantry at 10 o'clock and I look that way and I see infantry right next to me, I think they are enemy and the unit that took out my tank earlier, and they are very close. So I fire a quick burst of coaxial machine gun in the direction of one of those soldiers, but I miss, which turns out to be a good thing, because as the infantry is illuminated by my tracer rounds, I can see that the one I just fired upon was not carrying an AK rifle, but a G3, which is what our units have. So that is a friendly. The symbols of our friendly infantry on the map further back were referring to the M113 armored personnel carriers of the units. The infantry itself has moved up further and is directly to my left already. The enemy infantry the commander was referring to when he called them out in that direction is further back, and I sprayed a few rounds in that direction too. Now with the friendly infantry here I start to move up slowly with my tanks as well. I still can't see the enemy units though, and I expect them to be a bit further back at this point. However, when the friendly infantry and the M113s start to engage targets, I can follow their tracers, and eventually I can spot enemy units, and they are a lot closer than I thought. The first enemy I can see pops up right in front of me, and as I open fire I can see the rest of the unit. They are dug in front of the reverse slope of the hill. Very close, no wonder my lead tank got taken out. He must have crested the hill right in front of the enemy unit. A reverse slope defense is a good tactic if you try to negate the enemy's range advantage, as we have it here, as the enemy has to crest the ridge at close range before he can engage. Now however, we have the enemy unit pretty well suppressed between my tank and the infantry, and quickly taken out. We keep firing at the enemy position with everything we have for a bit, and then start to advance. It seems the enemy at least is out of RPGs, at least I can't see a launcher. By now we have taken the first of the two objectives in this area behind the hill, and then we are closing in on the second. Now after a bit of that I can spot another enemy vehicle close by, but it is just another armored personnel carrier, and no threat to my tanks. It can however destroy my own armored personnel carriers given the chance, and of course my infantry. But the BTR is also taken care of quickly. And with it most of the enemy units in that area of the map are destroyed. The other areas were much quieter, though some of the alpha tanks also ran into a BTR or two, but nothing heavy. However, since I was busy here, I did not really advance on the other objectives to the north. But we took however the objectives in the south, and the one in the middle of the map, which was the target of my initial push, and as I moved towards the objectives on the other side of the canal, the enemy units, or what was left of them, retreat and the battle ends. It is rated as a draw, and I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I take what I can get. Now this was of course an easy mission as it was the first one in the campaign, but I think it still serves to show some of the difficulties of night fighting, and we will see how it goes in further missions. Well, and this is it for this video. As always, I hope it was entertaining, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.